passion for this, I'm going to have to be quiet here in just a minute. My passion for this was to be a part of a generation who would help to seed other generations that will come beyond us. Jackie was talking on her interview about some of the founders of different religions and different whatever, who really were the early seeds of things that became different movements and religions. And rather it being a one-person thing, and now it's a collective thing, it is us, that we are seeding newer thought, not new thought, but newer thought. Hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to our Wednesday morning class. We're glad for you that are here. We have some out of town, and I do want to, all of us have a special prayer for Bob. I heard from Dorothy that he is not doing well and could not be here today, and I said that I would mention that in just a moment of prayer. So if we just take a second to just go into our hearts and affirm the wholeness and wellness of Bob right now, that wherever he is, that his cells will receive our intention and vibration and frequency to restore themselves to their perfect balance. We see this, we feel this, and in spirit we know this is done, and so it is. All right. So I think I'll just go ahead and say again what I was telling you, and maybe those who are joining us would also like to hear it. As we're kind of winding down this subject this month, I felt very challenged by doing this. I call this thing that's in the brain, a part of the human mind, the accuser of the brethren. And that's somewhere in the scripture talks about the accuser of the brethren, which of course was seen externally as the devil, you know, the thing that tempts you, the thing that accuses you. And like we went to Jesus and said, if you be the Son of God, turn these things. If you be this, do that. It's that part of us. And that has been a part of teaching this whole thing, has been there with me, accusing me, like, how can you make these statements? How can you tell these people that we can have a different experience in aging and whatever? And especially for us here with so much going on in the sensory body level of so much illness and things that are going on, it just seemed to make it even harder for me to always break through to that place of faith. But I've done it. For these months. I've been able to get there. And I have to get to the higher atmosphere of my consciousness to do that. I can't do it from the lower. But if I get to the higher place in which I can see things differently, a place in which there is a shift in my perception of being able to see through my spiritual senses, my spiritual faculties. You know, we talk about the five senses, right? But also every sense that we have physically and mentally, there's a counterpart spiritual part of that. Just like I think I see with my physical eyes what's out there. But what did the master teacher mean when he said, you that have eyes see? What did he mean when he said, you that have ears hear? He wasn't talking about the five senses, the intellect. He was talking about the counterpart of each. Taste of the Lord and see that he is good. He's not about tasting a piece of cake or a piece of pie. He's talking about, taste. The woman far from him touched the hem of his garment, but she was nowhere physically around to physically touch anything. But there was a realm of touching that was not a physical touching. You're a sweet smelling savor, it says. So there's fragrance. And I have been in movements in the past where actually we could, the scent of roses would come into the service, and we would smell this divine fragrance, and people would receive healing and all kinds of things. And I know this to be. So what I'm telling you, to get into a message that goes against the outer law and get into universal law, you have to find that place where things click and things change over into another part of your mind. And that part of the mind we call the Christ consciousness, or the universal mind, or the universal consciousness. So I wanted to say that, I believe that I'll mention again, I don't know, was online, but we just listened to Jacqueline Watt's wonderful interview for her book. And she made the statement about all the different places that she's been and been a part of, that a lot of them were due to a founder. You know, Unity would be Fillmore's, and Science of Mind would be Holmes, and different founders that I'm sure has influenced all of these different places that not only she but many have experienced. But if those people had not flowered first, if they had not come to their maturity first, then there would have been nothing to seed the ground, the people of the ground, right? And I think we don't sometimes understand. I know there's more documentaries out now that help to understand more about these founders. I knew very little about Muhammad of Islam. I know very little probably about that religion of any of them, but I enjoyed the documentary of knowing more of his experience and what he went through to be able to start the first pod. Unfortunately, the thing that I found in all of these is their early first pod, I call it, community, did not remain the original, but changed through time as man began to reinterpret it and man began to put its agenda in, which a lot of time, unfortunately, was greed, control, and power. So it doesn't matter which religion you go to. If it's lasted for hundreds or maybe thousands of years, it's because it did come from the truth, some kind of truth. But that truth has been misinterpreted and replaced by the interpretations of man, including Christianity. There's a whole part of Christianity long before the Christianity that you know today that was organized in the 4th century by the Nicene councils. There's a whole mystical part of Christianity that Jesus would have probably started the teachings of it. And it's sad to me that they substituted the man Jesus for the teachings. And when the teachings were suppressed, then there was room for man to start interpreting it the way it wanted to into its own dogmas and doctrines. So if you have a little bad taste in your mouth because you had an experience younger as a child with certain religions, you got to understand that there was the first fruits. There was the more mystical, spiritual side of those. Kabbalah is to the Jewish teachings. The Kabbalah is a deep teaching that would resonate more today with quantum teachings and whatever. But there was really nobody to fully understand the depths of the fact that there was anything smaller than an atom. You know, this is kind of Plato, Aristotle's ideas that the atom is the smallest thing, is that era of the Greek teaching. And so that had to be put aside for a while until there was a consciousness that was ready to receive it. And that has only been in most of our time. And even though quantum physics actually comes on the scene about 150 years ago with Einstein, Max Planck, and all of those people, it still took a while to really catch on until it got into the hands of, say, Deepak Chopra. And Deepak Chopra started talking about quantum healing. What a concept. What is that? And so it took time for the seeding to happen. And then there had to be the watering of the seed. And then there is the increase of the seed. So why I'm sharing this with you is in my own inner reflection over this subject that I've dared to take on, which is degeneration and death itself, that in my spirit I know that life is truth over death. I do not think that these two things can exist as equal opposites and both be true. Phones off. To be true. And this is good course teaching. I have to give Course of Miracles the fact that it says love and fear cannot exist as two realities. One is right, false, and one is true. So there is no real fear equals real love. There is the absence of what is real, which the ego places into something we interpret as fear. And that's the law of one. But it sure seems things in the 3D world are opposites. It's all about this and that. And if it's not this, then it has to be that. So I'm saying that because I believe that the one-man show is over, meaning the prophets and those who were like the Moses, Abraham, all the way to the prophets of Isaac and Jacob, to the kings of Israel, David and Solomon and all of those. These were people that held the power themselves over the sway of consciousness of their time. But I believe, for what it's worth to you, that Jesus is the last of that. I think Jesus said no more one person is going to show up. And that's why I'm going to, now get this, it says in the Bible, die. Now when it says that Jesus died as the Christ, it doesn't mean physical death. It means I'm going to die out as a man that you can see with your five senses, and I'm going to fall into the ground. Remember I told you the ground represents the people, the soil, so that I do not abide alone. Isn't that great? I'm going to make sure that I do not remain the only last one teacher prophet, but I will die out my ego to be the one. My goodness, which Christianity has not got that one at all, because he is the one. He's the focus of all Christianity. You got to believe in him to get to heaven. Everything is through the man Jesus. But Jesus himself, I'm going to die out very quickly here, because as long as I'm a body, I can be with you. But if I die out to become the Spirit Christ I am, I can be in you. You got me? I'm not going to be just with you. I'm going to put myself into a substance to be in you. That's a lot closer than with him. So I will be that, and then I will be, and I will seed the ground collectively. And this is the more esoterical idea of such things as the church, the body of Christ. I like to say, instead of the body of Christ, which has a real religious connotation, I like to say the embodiment of the Christ. But not one person. Not one body, let me say it that way. The oneness now is no longer the one body, but it's the one collective Christ. That's why, okay, I'm sitting here talking to 8, 9 people. I don't know. Maybe there's 10 of us in here. I don't know who's online, but I'm talking to you. Do you realize that's 10 times more than when Jesus walked as a body on this earth? He was just one person. And why are you sitting here listening to what I'm saying to you right now? Why are you drawn to this realm of consciousness that we represent here at HeartLight or in New Thought? Because the seed fell into good ground that you are. It says the seed falls into the ground, but oftentimes it doesn't take root, and the birds of the air come and take the seed away. Well, I see that all the time. You can see it right here in HeartLight. People who don't seed the word. The word does not catch. Or maybe they come one time and they go, wow, this is exciting. This is what I've been looking for. And we don't see them again because the fowls of the air came in and said, you better stay away from that place because that's a bunch of cult and crazy stuff. And they lost the root of it. Then there's those that have come, such as yourselves, heard it, and it took deep root into you and resonated in you. I hope you get what I'm saying, is you are the multiplication of what Jesus began. You are the result of his harvest. You are the result of his seeding to become a collective embodiment of who and what he was. The embodiment of the Christ. That's why it was important for us not to throw it all away when we made that shift out of traditional type of Christianity where Jesus is still worshiped as the body. The Bible is clear itself in black and white. Know no man after the flesh, not even Jesus Christ. It just says it. Do not know him by the flesh. This explains how, holographically, the 10 or so of you sitting here have the right and the power to say, Christ in me. Elaine can't say that and say, okay, because it's in her, it can't be in the rest of you. She's got it. No, we'll go here to Beth, and Beth can say, Christ in me. And we go around the room, and all of you, whether you're 10 or 10,000, can say, Christ is in me, because it made itself holographically the seed of truth planted in good ground. And now it wants to bring forth of itself a harvest. And you know what it says about the harvest? There's a great harvest, but the labors are few. And that's one of the visions here that has not been fulfilled the way I wanted it to be at HeartLight. And when I first came and started the Bible 101 class, that was all for the purpose of training people to be able to have a conversation with other people who are open and join with me in a collective ministry, not under me as the man of God. But I don't think, and I could be wrong, and I'm very much can change, that there is the enough that has found who they truly are and still see themselves in their limitations. I'm not a speaker. I don't do well. I can't get up in front of people. That's not my thing. You know, you all have done it to yourself. I can't get up there and do that. I couldn't do like they do. And then you compare yourself to those who can, and I couldn't do that, and I couldn't do this. And when you do that, you're not finding the treasure that is hidden in your soul, the gem. So that's okay. It's what it is. I had a vision. It didn't happen in the way that I wanted it to be. But I do remember somebody that lived here first, Gail. And many things she said to me that resonate with me. She says, David, this isn't a church, it's a training center. And I knew right then I should have named this HeartLight Training Center. That people should come here for training, not for church. So I'm just trying to, I guess what I'm trying to show you is there has to be those with a vision. There has to be those who see beyond everything that the ego's world is showing you and telling you. And to do that, we have to learn how can we get to the higher atmosphere of our consciousness. The upper room. Things happen in the upper room. Oh my God, if you want something to happen, get in the upper room and you'll have fire and flames set on your head. You will hear the tongues of angels. You will experience power for being endued from on high. You will break down barriers of culture and race and gender, and all these things go on in the upper room. Every one of you needs your own personal Pentecost. I'm not talking about the religion Pentecost. I'm talking about your own Pentecost, the undoing of the debt. Every 50 years at Pentecost, they came together and all the debts were wiped out, all the slaves were free, and everybody started all over fresh again. Isn't that a great idea? Don't you wish even our Christian government might think of doing that? I mean, Joe Biden is trying to do away some of the debt for education and all that kind of thing, and being fought every way that he can. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a wonderful idea, and we need more of it. But I won't go that direction right now. Am I making any sense to you that what we have done these months is seeded collectively by you coming here and allowing me to speak, and the conversation that we've had, and the books that we have, the words we have read out of these books, has activated a word in the higher atmospheres of consciousness, in the heavens. We have released a word contrary to the word of the ego's world. So I'm saying this to encourage myself, but whether I'm here or not to see it, there will be a harvest of the seeding that we have done for the past few months. I may not see it today. I may not see in the next week or month everybody in HeartLight that's got an illness or disease or aging situation change. I may not see anything with these eyes, but I've seen it with these eyes. Oh, I've looked over into a land where the milk and honey flows. Just like Martin Luther King said, I may not get there, but I've looked over into a place in which we will not judge each other by the color of our skin, but by the content of our soul. He didn't see it. Even Moses didn't see it. Do you know Moses died before they ever got there? Look at all the water he went through to prepare the children of Israel to go out there and do what he did, and didn't even make it with them into the land. Died before. But we're still talking about what he did 4,000 years later. He's gone, but not his harvest. If HeartLight is here to only be a generation to seed the harvest, God's word does not return void, but it will accomplish and do that which it is sent to do. Cast your bread upon the waters, and it shall return to you not many days hence. These are the divine law. Nothing is lost. Even if the accuser of the brethren is in your head screaming, nonsense, crazy, will never happen, this is stupid, you're wasting your time, that's when you have to, as I said Sunday, Jesus said, sit down on the grass. How are we going to feed these people? How are these two fishes and the loaves going to feed 11,000 people? Jesus, just sit down. Sit down on the grass. Stop the chatter. Reboot. Because he knew in that chatter nothing was going to happen until there was a place in consciousness for a shift to take place from what was perceived a reality to a true reality. So, I just felt I had to say that today. If that's for me, it's for me, but I hope it's for each and every one of us in some way. Mostly, I think from what I take from these teachings is the power of the self-knowledge. I think that's what I want to keep talking about the rest of our time, is the difference in the knowledge that we collect outside of ourselves and the knowledge that is our innate, inherent knowledge that we bring in with us. And that totally does away with the idea that every new baby born knows nothing and starts from zero. And not only does it have that part of itself, which is all of its contracts, agreements, and purposes for the incarnation, stored in the higher atmospheres of their consciousness, you also have your Akashic soul records of your past experiences and lifetimes. So I'm sorry, when you incarnate, you come in with stuff. But because the belief is there is no stuff, the stuff becomes more and more suppressed, I guess, and is not activated into the making of the consciousness of the soul. Because the soul thinks that it's starting from here, and it forgets that it is the accumulation of a story that is carried inside of it. I see it. I see it. Unfortunately, I saw it recently when I was at my family. It's touchy to talk about your family. I love my family, but they're my family. And I just so, like you, all of you do, all of you, I'm sure I have family, really desire that they would know more, that there was a breakthrough. It's hard for you to be the one that spiritually carries the family and knows the things that you know, and then you go into these family things and you got to come down and meet them where they are, and in this whole 3D world of ego, and it's just hard to watch. It's just hard to watch the things they find the most important, the things that they think will make them happy, the things that they're trying to aspire to that has nothing to do with their growth spiritually at all. You know, and it's just difficult to not be able to get through in some way. And but it's their path. It's not mine. It's their path. Until whatever life brings them, you just remain supportive of that. So you got this innate knowledge in you, which has been given to you for the purpose of fulfilling an entire lifetime fully. And that's the innate yearning of the core of every soul, whether we know it or not, is we cannot find these. It's hard to use words because they're happiness. I mean, when I say happiness, what does that mean to you? I don't know. I don't know what makes people happy. Now, I know some of you have moments of happy when things are going a certain way or something happens, but it's very temporary stuff to be happy. You're not looking for happy, you're looking for happiness, a state, not an emotion. And even if you're 60, 70 years old or whatever you are, you still may be at some level looking for true happiness. Maybe you've adjusted to be alone and when you don't want to be alone. Now, some people want to be alone and they find happiness being alone, but it's rare. I don't think we're totally innately meant to be alone. I think everybody, whether admit it or not, would like to have some intimacy and companionship in their life. I think we're kind of built that way. So there's that. I think everybody wants a certain amount of, better word, success in being able to live a comfortable life. I don't know that everybody wants to be rich and powerful and whatever, but I think we all would like to have a nice place to live, a decent car to drive, some nice clothes, different things, go out to eat when we want to. I think we all aspire to a comfortable life. And I think we all aspire to have a certain level of health. Just to be healthy enough to not have serious, devastating diseases and illnesses. I'm just convinced that if we are able to attain all of those, we still have not addressed the core yearning of the soul. The soul, oh boy, the soul represents to me the soul of the heart, the mind of the heart, the wisdom of the heart. Remember, I've taught you the soul believed. It didn't happen, but it believed in the split. It believed in the split. And because of that, a part of the soul stayed with the core of the spirit, while part of it went with the body. So part of your soul is connected to your body, and part of your soul is connected to your spirit because of a belief. I didn't say it happened. I said because of a belief in separation. And that's why we have the word psyche, soul, mind, which is feminine. So here she is, all by herself, separated from the part of herself that is in him, in the head. Because what do you think controls your body is out of your head. But sometimes when I hear real soul music, and I don't really always see soul music as the way we call it soul music. Sometimes soul music to me is very sad, melancholy, classical music. When I feel the longing of the soul. I was watching something last night that had a little bit of Madame Butterfly opera on it. And that's a soul-wrenching part of the music in that. I hear that in that type of music. I hear that longing for something, that reaching for something. And that is the part of your soul that is in your heart that says, I don't want to be alone. I need what he has. Because what he has is the seed of a part of me that I need. I'll never be complete. And that's the whole idea of the man should not live by alone, and we try to do that. Let's be honest about it. We think that's it. Every man should have a woman. Every woman should have a man. You need to be married. You need to be married to somebody. And let's be honest, it hasn't always worked well. That's not the answer itself. It's for a man and a woman to always be together. I'm sure we represent some divorces here and some bad relationships and some abusive marriages. It wasn't the answer itself, although society and religion says it is the answer. That's why I did it. I feel so honest today. Don't tell what I may say. But I was so I was so pressured at the age of 27 as a single successful pastor of a church that the pressure was so on me that you can't be alone. Every minister needs a wife. That's all I heard. In their minds, you can't have a minister that's alone. And I'm not a victim, but due to that pressure, I thought, okay, if this is the plan, if this makes me validated in the image of what a pastor and a minister shall be, for a bishop shall be the bishop of one wife, it says in the Bible, the minister of one wife. Now I find that interesting that God changed his mind to one wife after Solomon had 10,000 and then a bunch of concubines on the side. All of a sudden God says, no more of that, just one. Make up your mind, which is it. So I'm saying this without any self-judgment at all about anyone involved in this, that I didn't marry. I didn't marry because I was moved by the higher atmosphere of my mind. I wasn't moved because of a spiritual destiny. I was moved by formulating myself to fit a preconceived idea of what it would mean to be a successful and good minister. And as you know, it didn't work. And I couldn't have made it work if I'd have wanted to. And I did want to. And I did. I'm saying all that to say to you that everything that I've ever thought would bring me that would satisfy that yearning, the yearning, the divine yearning in me has never been accomplished by anything that I thought would do it outside of myself. And I think that's why the world is so unhappy. I think the world is so unhappy that it has caused a lot of horrible things to happen in the world. And what this teaching is trying to teach us is there is a word, a logos, a purpose, a plan, I don't know what word you want, that is innately been put into us that is not being fulfilled. And that's what I get out of this. And this is what he contributes to me, is that until I find that knowledge, that information that is mine, not theirs, not society's, not culture, not religion, not even my parents. I know parents think they always know best for you, but they don't. They do not know best for you. And we tread way too far into the souls of our children that has come through us, and don't even realize, as much as we say we love them, we have become almost their worst enemy in the sense of finding themselves. Because we're busy molding them into the shape and the image that we believe they ought to be, and most of that is based upon what we were taught it should be. And it's passed down from generation to generation. You know, to have children today and relationships, if you don't tap into wisdom, it's not easy. The wisdom to how to talk to them, how to deal with them, how to discern them, how to get into a deeper aspect of what it's all about, redefining what relationships are about. We have been so stuck in our sacral, sexual, reproductive attraction of sexuality and not realized Kundalini has moved out of there and has moved into the heart, moving us from attraction for procreation to co-creation with partners.
Well said. Well said.
And that's why you be careful about judging people who come together. Whether it's two women, a man and a woman, or two men. Everybody immediately gets suspicious, wants to know what's going on when that happens, because we assume if some man and some woman get close together and they're attracted, there's got to be a sexual component to it. That is not true any longer, because they are together because of a co-creative purpose. And two men can have that and not have any sexual relationship with each other, but can have that connection. Two women can have it. Maybe two women and a man can have it. And everybody goes, what's going on there? Oh, did you see what's... Because we're in the old formats of things. So, that's that. On that. So we have moved from procreation. We had to have this through evolution. We had to have that so we could pass the seed on, pass the DNA on, and whatever. But now it's time to pass God's DNA on. God's plan of the ages that is deeply within in ourselves. So that would seem to be the thread that comes through all of this teaching, is about self-knowledge. Self-knowledge. Let's look self-knowledge up in the glossary and just see what is there, I assume. Okay, it's pretty short. Self-knowledge is knowledge of the conscious self in the body. See knowledge self. Well, what's the difference in that? Knowledge self, okay? Knowledge self. Okay, there's a whole bunch here. Let's go up to the kingdom of heaven. Everybody with me? Okay. It's on 213 in the big book
16 in the little.
and 16 in the small. All you have to do is by alphabet. Just look up kingdom. Kingdom of heaven is within. It is the higher vibrations of the psychic atmosphere. It can be experienced by the individual who sets his sensory mind in, what's that word? Obeyance. Sure, I know that. And is therefore in his psychic atmosphere, untouched by pain, pleasure, which comes through the body. The kingdom of heaven is a state of mind in which a mind is functioning at a higher rate of vibratory frequency than that of the present earth plane. Knowledge has an identity rather than a definition. I really like that. Knowledge has an identity rather than a definition. That's why it is said that Jesus said, I am the truth. He did not define truth. He made truth his identity. It is not just a well, I just can't even read today. Of information. It is the collective consciousness of all those who recognize it, perceive it, or understand it to be what it is. Knowledge is the essence of the conscious light of intelligence. Is the energy and the light that makes the individual consciousness that he is conscious and aware that he is conscious. Wow. So it's consciousness being consciousness of itself. Isn't that interesting? Everybody has consciousness, but they don't have a consciousness that's aware of consciousness. Knowledge is the identity of all knowledge in consciousness. So, knowledge self is information that has been exposed to the individual's conscious light of intelligence, assessed and evaluated by the intelligent mind, and stored in the higher mental atmosphere. It is self-knowledge because it contains knowledge of the conscious self in the body. The significance of self-knowledge lies in the fact that when thoughts contain information drawn from this area. See, that's what I remember as being taught, and why meditation can be such a useful tool of trying to bring down as much as you can the intensity of the lower mind, the chatter mind. I don't think you have to just stop it. I think that's an art. You'd have to spend a lot of time. And some people have, and if you've attained that, good for you. But most people are not that committed to spend the hours and hours it takes to actually but I think the best thing to that is being able to be in the chatter but not of the chatter, so to speak. It just passes through and just passes through and passes through. And once you get connected to it, you come back and you keep coming back. Because I think the more you try to resist the chatter, the more chatter there is. So I think you have to accept that probably most likely there's going to always be the firings of neurons going on in the brain at all times. And that, again, that's something you have to personally, individually try to figure out. But you want to get at least to a place in which there is an ability for the higher knowledge, the innate knowledge, to then find its way into your consciousness. Into your consciousness. So, so I want to read that again. Conscious light of intelligence, assessed and evaluated by the intellectual mind and stored in the higher mental atmosphere. It is self-knowledge because it contains knowledge of the conscious self in the body. The significance of self-knowledge lies in the fact that when thoughts contain information drawn from this area, they do not have to be qualified by the belief system. In fact, they will transmute related thoughts and are already lodged in the belief system. In other words, it won't be, I didn't know this, now I believe in it. It's, I believe in this because I knew it all along and it's been awakened to me. And when you qualify that at that level, you're qualifying it at a different vibration or frequency, which then connects to changing the frequency in the blueprint of the etheric, and that then turns around and changes cellular replication. So cellular replication starts happening at a higher frequency of a higher consciousness rather than the lower atmosphere of consciousness. Self-knowledge reveals to the individual knowledge of the conscious self. So what is the conscious self? What is that to you?
I think it's what it said in the last sentence of the paragraph above. It's in the essence of the conscious light. It is the energy and the light that makes the individual conscious, that he is conscious and aware. He is conscious as an individual self.
Okay, so he is conscious, even when we were not conscious, but then when we became conscious of that consciousness that was always there all along, because you can't be unconscious. We can be unconscious of it, but it cannot be unconscious.
It's always there.
Always there. That's good. Anybody else have anything about that you want to say?
Well, and there's a knowingness to it that you don't doubt.
I like that. And we've talked about that since I've been here, the difference in knowing and believing. You know, when you know the truth, not when you believe, what you believe the truth is, when you know the truth. So the Spirit always brings us the knowing. Yeah, Karen?
To me, it's like a more integrated with everything instead of just my personal self. I feel like a connection with trees and people that I didn't have when I was just me and ego-centered.
Yes. Yes. Because all consciousness is in connection with all other consciousness at a unified field area, which is proved in quantum physics. So we know that's not New Age woo-woo anymore. We know that they have proved that consciousness is in connection to all consciousness and creates a field of all consciousness. And that's why you can draw things far beyond your limitations. And you should be doing that. You should be experiencing things you would have never thought about. It's not even the way you think, because you're drawing from all of what, it's like the computer. I mean, it just shocks me sometimes what I can pull up that's been put in there by other people. I mean, everybody's individual information has been put in there to make this big collective database that we can all draw from. We can draw thoughts from other parts of ourselves. You can't look at them as individuals, but you got to realize they're part of the field, and that there is just no limitation to anything that we should be able to connect into and tap into that we need to know for ourselves, to empower ourselves, to help us to be clear about our life and the path that we're on. On page 203, it talks about conscious light of intelligence. 203 in the big book. Conscious light of intelligence is the life force energy that flows through each individual when it is focused on a subject through attention of the conscious mind. It reveals that subject to be as it is according to the individual's own master codes. See, that's when I talk about this knowledge that is stored in the higher atmosphere, I'm talking about your personal master codes. If you're looking it up in the back, it's under C, conscious light of intelligence. Page 203 in the big book. So according to the individual's own master codes, records the information in the higher mental atmosphere of self-knowledge. Consciousness is the presence in each thing to the extent that it is conscious of what it is or what it does. It has no beginning and no end. It is indivisible, without components, qualities, states, attributes, or limitations. Yet everything from least to the greatest in and beyond space is dependent on it to be and to do. The presence of consciousness is in everything urges the level of awareness to progress in continuing high degrees of being conscious toward the only one ultimate reality, that of consciousness. That of consciousness. That of consciousness. So, bottom line, consciousness is here through us to become conscious of itself. I think sometimes we miss it because we think we're here to do the work. I think about ourselves as humans. Just as I think that we have been wrong about waking humanity. No, wake up God in humanity, and the awakening of God will raise the vibratory frequency of humanity, and it'll be raised. See? Humans are not that asleep. The divine in them is asleep because it's not been activated and made conscious of. That's what it means when Jesus is in the bottom of the boat and they go down and they wake him up and all of that. Up until that time, they were trying everything in the world to still the storm. But when they became immediately conscious, oh, there's someone down in the bowels of the ship, go get him. The minute that they were conscious of it, it became conscious and moved into their consciousness and said the famous words, "Peace, be still." But it had been to their utter ruin if they had not dared first been conscious of what was there to be conscious of. And in them being conscious of it, that consciousness came into consciousness and still the storm. Let's take a moment. I pray today that there has been that which has been helpful and edifying and assured, make more sure about things that maybe you think about, contemplate, a certain clarity. I hope that your understanding in some areas are more expanded. I also hope that maybe some areas was worth correcting the way we thought about them, and now we are choosing a different way to think about them. Maybe in some way we let consciousness become a little more conscious of itself, in us, through us, and as us, because the world needs more and more conscious beings. Holy Spirit, we ask always for your leadership and guidance into the noetic knowing of our mind, into the place of remembrance. Help us in this time that things are and appear challenging around us, that we find a state of peace and even happiness that surpasses the world of appearance and the ego's world. Help us to walk in your kingdom. Just as your kingdom is in us, so are we in your kingdom, your domain, where no anxiety, fear, depression can even enter into your kingdom, for your kingdom is pure light. Not even death can enter into your kingdom, for it is the kingdom of light and life. Holy Spirit, as we just take this few seconds, of silence to allow you to minister to us in any way that you choose to do, and those that are still with us online, wherever you are. May the Holy Spirit minister to your body, to your mind, and to your spirit, to your whole being, according to your will to receive. And now be filled with the presence of the living God. As you go forth from here today, go in the name and nature of the loving Christ. All that you do, everywhere you put your feet, shall be holy ground. Everything you touch with your hands shall be blessed. Every thought will be directed toward love and peace, kindness. May you prosper. As your soul prospers, so shall you prosper. Even in your human life, your health, your money, your love, your companionship, friendships, family relations. And we don't ask for it to be done, we recognize it done. As we take a deep breath, open our eyes, and so it is. Okay, a little different today. I feel a little different today. I don't know why, but I just feel different today. So I'm just going with it. I do want to thank all of you for your support to keep the class going. I know, I think Bonnie and them's out of town, and as I told you, Bob, we had prayer for him earlier, and
David, is Bob at home?
she didn't say, she just said they wouldn't be here. Bob was not feeling well. So I guess. Anybody have anything you want to say or ask or something?
I did get a chance to see The Universe by narrated by Morgan Freeman.
Yes.
Oh man, what an eye opener!
Yes.
It is amazing. It is amazing. I totally suggest it.
It just gave me such a deeper appreciation for rain that I never thought of. Something as simple as rain, and if I'm to believe what he said, to make the formation of just a single drop of rain.
And he has such a great voice. It's such a voice you trust, and it's so authentic.
Netflix, yeah,
Yeah,
it's on
Netflix.
Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
called The
series
Universe.
called The Universe.
The Universe.
Just called The Universe, yeah.
Now he spoke about third dimension, something about the fourth dimension, but nothing that I can remember about the fifth dimension.
Yeah. Sometimes the scientists confuse fourth dimension with what we call fifth dimension because of time. See, they go by on three space, 4 time, space-time. And fifth is beyond space-time. So they don't sometimes go there if they're really more traditional science-minded, and they stay within that confinement. So that's our place, is to add that spiritual component to the science component. They take us right there to the edge, and then we move on over into the spiritual component or application of it that way. All right. Well, thank you. Have a wonderful day. And I think it's supposed to clear up today, they said. I don't know it's going to stay this way. And don't forget the concert is Saturday night. Be nice if we support that. And I'm sure They'll have something entertaining for us and some refreshments also on the Friday night and Saturday night. I think they're rehearsing Friday night. Yeah. So we want to definitely show up for them if you possibly can. Come out and be with them. All right. Thank you so much. Bye.